Okay, so today's topic is the Tom Brady versus Bill Belichick debate, and from a Patriots fan's perspective, his stance on it. Okay, now let me say this as kind of like as like a precursor for everything that's about to be discussed in this video. Tom Brady would not have had the same level of success as far as winning goes if it wasn't for the fact that he landed with the Patriots. Now, I don't know if the Patriots wouldn't have drafted him. I don't know if anybody would have taken a risk. And if somebody would have taken a risk, would he have stayed on the team? These are things that Bill Belichick deserves a lot of credit for. Because although I said before, he wasn't the one who had the idea to draft him originally. There was a scout that I guess was scouting Michigan players, and the coach of I guess he was the scout started talking to the coach about Tom, and I guess getting his opinion on Tom, and I guess he heard enough to let Bill know, listen, we need to draft this kid. And even Bill said it in the I guess I forgot what documentary I watched. Bill even said it. He was like, once we got down into the late rounds of the draft, Brady was on, we started to notice that Brady was still on the board. Like nobody was picking him up. So once we got down to like the sixth round, he was so far ahead of everybody else we had on our list that we had no other choice but to take him. And he even said we didn't want to keep Brady, but we didn't want to release him because we didn't want to run the risk of somebody else picking him up. These are things that Bill Belichick deserves a lot of credit for because he could have passed on Brady. Brady probably would have been signed as a undrafted free agent, or he could have released him, and Brady could have been picked up by another team. But the fact that he held on to him and he gave him a chance, Brady must have done something his rookie year, because from what we hear is that Brady was rough. He didn't have that it thing that makes other top quarterbacks shine. He didn't have the athleticism. He didn't have the strong arm. He didn't have the most accurate arm. But there was something that he did his rookie year that allowed Belichick to feel comfortable with keeping him there. All right. Now, do I think Bill Belichick would have won a Super Bowl with Drew Bledsoe? Hell no. I think Drew Bledsoe, even though he was a number one overall pick, even though he just signed a $100 million contract, I think Drew Bledsoe, or I don't think, damn, I said $100 million. I believe it equated to $100 million, but it was a 10-year contract, I believe. Drew Bledsoe was an incredibly underwhelming quarterback for a franchise quarterback. Incredibly underwhelming. All right, and this is why, because they're discussing Danny Amendola's comment when he was talking about how Brady was the Patriot way. Everything that the Patriot way was about was embodied by the way that Tom Brady conducted himself, and the way he worked, and the way he pushed his teammates to work. That was the Patriot way. And these comments are indicative of the Patriots with Brady and the Patriots without Brady. Okay, because when Brady was drafted, that team went 5-11 with Drew Bledsoe, the number one pick, the 10-year, $100 million quarterback, with Ty Law, Teddy Bruschi, or Willie McGinnis, those offensive linemen, Matt Light, Dan Coppin, Stephen Neal, these guys, Antoine Smith, the running back, Troy Brown. All right, these guys were still on the team, and but the only difference between that 5-11 season versus the 11-5 season when Brady started was Brady. Brady was the difference. Like the major difference. Brady was the difference. There are multiple situations where you can. There are multiple, there are multiple situations that you can point at and say, yeah, I think Brady is the reason. Like I could see why Brady would be the reason why New England was as successful as they are now, or have been over the past 20 years. But let's get to the video, man. I had to say that because a lot of times just getting a huge chunk of it kind of shortens whatever it is that I'm trying to say throughout the video. But let's go.
Stephen A., you're up first, though. Should we dismiss Amendola's comments about Brady, Belichick, and the Patriot way?
Absolutely. It should be utterly dismissed. And I like Danny Amendola. I've met him a couple of times, and I'm really very fond of him as a person and as a player. But I think that this was incredibly insulting, very disrespectful, and dare I say, flat out ignorant.
It's not ignorant. I think what Stephen A. was getting, and this is whether these sports television pundits are actually truthful about their takes. It makes no difference to me. I'm just going off of what they're saying, and I'm giving a fresh fan's perspective of these same situations that they're commenting on. So please don't go there.
Handed to Max and Jeff by simply just throwing out a couple of numbers, and I understand, and I'm not leaning.
Oh, let me finish my thought. Stephen, I don't think it's ignorant what Danny is saying. I think what's ignorant is the fact that we feel like in order to give one person credit, we have to completely disrespect the other person. And that's not the case. This is why I don't want to put a percentage on anything, because that's the way that you take credit from someone else, is by throwing a percentage up there. There should not be a percentage, because if there is a percentage bar, then you would have to, like, for both people, for both Brady and Belichick, the percentage bar would be a lot lower than what people are giving it. Because you got to think about the offensive line has to do their job. The receivers has to catch the ball. The running back has to not fumble and gain as many yards as he possibly can each run. The defense has to stop the players on the other team. They have to get those stops. If that defense wasn't as great against Kurt Warner in the Super Bowl, like this is a Rams team who was so offensively dominant. Like it took, I believe it took a Herculean effort for that defense to hold them to 17 points. Like it took everything. Because this is a Rams team that could have easily, on anybody else, probably put up 30, 35 points easy. Like this team, you're talking about Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, Ricky Prohl, fucking Marshall Faulk, Kurt Warner, like Hall of Famers. Well, not Ricky Prohl. Ricky Prohl was a really great receiver, though. I'm not going to lie. But everybody else was Hall of Famers, man. Hall of Famers. That offense was very dominant. That's the point I'm trying to make. Let's go.
I don't normally lean on numbers like this, but I think it's incredibly important to point out. Danny Amendola started off his career in St. Louis. He had a 1-15 season. He had a 2-14 season. Okay?
Yes. Trying to debunk the comments of a former wide receiver, not a former wide receiver, damn, he still plays, trying to debunk the comments of a receiver by pointing out his team's record and then blaming him for the record being the way it is. When was the last time we've seen any one wide receiver have a huge impact on a team's record? I give you an example of why this doesn't make any sense. Look at one of the best receivers we've had in the past 20 years in this era was Calvin Johnson. I mean, that dude, like, he had it all: the size, speed, hands. I mean, this dude was incredible. One of the most versatile and scariest receivers we've seen since like a young Randy Moss. But the Detroit Lions were perennial jokes in their division, the NFC North. Perennial jokes, even with a Calvin Johnson. And people are giving Matthew Stafford a little too much credit. Sure, on Detroit, Matthew Stafford is a really good quarterback, man. But does that mean that he could be a really good quarterback on a championship winning team? Like, can he make a team a championship winning team? Like, is it in him to do that? Like, we've never seen Matthew Stafford in a situation where he's on a very stacked team and the team has a chance to win. They just need him to get them there. We've never seen him. He's been in Detroit. Their best season they've had, the Detroit Lions, were a wild card team. One of the best teams we've seen from Detroit since Matthew Stafford got drafted. They were a wild card team. So going back to my point, when's the last time we've seen a wide receiver have such a significant impact on a team's record? So using the record to try to say, well, you were nothing before you got to New England, if it wasn't for Belichick taking a chance on you, like that's really not fair, man. Because then you could just go and say, well, Calvin Johnson doesn't deserve to be a Hall of Famer because he was on the Detroit Lions team that was average at best every year.
Needless to say, they didn't win. He goes to New England. They go to 5 straight AFC championship games. Every year he was there. 3 times they won the Super Bowl. 2 times they ended up Super Bowl champions. Danny Amendola is a bright guy. He plays football. He knows football. Last time I checked, he knows they have special teams. He knows they have a defense. The New England Patriots was ranked as a top 10 defense every single year. He was there 3 times.
Another myth. All right. There was not a top 10 defense. See, people get scoring defense versus overall total defense mixed up. Okay? Mixed up. Now, I'm not saying they weren't top 10 at all. Sure, they might have been a year here, a year there. But over the past 10 years, New England has had one of the best scoring defenses. That means when you get down into the red zone, is your defense giving up touchdowns or limiting them to field goals or getting turnovers? And that's what New England was great at. Stopping teams in the red zone. Forcing them to kick a lot more field goals or turn the ball over. Now, anything between this 20 and that 20, they were giving it up easy, man. They were easy as fuck to score on. Like, not to score on, to move the ball on. But once you get down to that red zone, that's when they tightened it up. It's a smaller space, and everybody knows once you get down in that red zone area of your opponent, that the defense is better because there's not enough space to maneuver, like as if it was from 120 to the other 20. That's a lot more space to work with. Let's not get that mixed up, man. And this was a defense that gave up 41 points in the Super Bowl and made Nick Foles look like a goddamn superhero. Like this was the same defense. I'm just saying, this was the same defense. There's this apparent top 10 defense that Stephen A is talking about. Okay, so let's go.
They were top 8. 2 times they were top 5.
Oh yeah, and about special teams. Steven Gostkowski, over the past 5 years that he was in New England, was incredibly inconsistent. I mean, I'm talking about missing extra points, missing crucial. Steven Gostkowski was the reason, was the sole fight, and I don't care what anybody says, was the sole reason they lost against Denver in the AFC Championship game. Because this dude missed extra points, he missed field goals, and when it came time for New England to have a chance at the end to tie the game up, if Steven Gostkowski would have made an extra point earlier in the game, they would have had a chance to tie it up with a field goal. Well, because he missed that extra point, it was a 4-point game, and New England needed a touchdown at the end of the game. So Steven Gostkowski has been incredibly inconsistent. So special teams, okay. Well, we'll pretend that's true. Let's go.
One time, they were the number one defense in the National Football League. It wasn't just Tom Brady. And so you take that into consideration, and then you combine that with the fact that he departs and goes to Miami. It's a 7-9 season. Then he joins Matt Patricia, his former defensive coordinator with New England, who took over the job at Detroit. Their record in 2 years in Detroit was 3-12-1.
Yeah, again, why are we like, it's not like Danny Amendola is a fucking quarterback. Why are we attributing the record and using it to try to discredit Danny Amendola? It makes no sense. Like, there have never been a time in history where a team was shit, but because you had one wide receiver, your team was a lot better than what it should have been. A lot better than what it should have been. Come on, man. Come on, bro.
And 5-11, if I remember correctly. That is an 8-23-1 record.
And Jeff Saturday should be fucking ashamed of himself for even entertaining this stupid fucking argument by nodding his head like, oh my God, Stephen A., you're so right. Jesus, Danny, what are you doing? Like, what the fuck? Like, what is this, man? Like, what is this?
How the hell are you going to just ignore Bill Belichick and bring up this year when they started off the season with 9 different damn dudes saying we ain't going to play because of COVID-19?
Oh, yeah, and I hate that argument as well. We're talking about Patrick Chung, Dante Hightower, and I respect Dante Hightower. As a Patriots fan, Dante Hightower is one of my favorite players to watch when he is healthy and he is on his game. But you're talking about a guy over the past 5 to maybe 7 years where this dude has been on and off because of injury. You're talking about a guy like 2 years ago, I believe, in the Super Bowl against the Eagles, Hightower didn't even play because he was hurt. He was hurt for a while leading up to that game. Like, he's been hurt over the course of his career, almost on par with Rob Gronkowski. Like Hightower is hit or miss with availability. So come on, it's not like New England hasn't played without him before. Okay, Patrick Chung is another one who's suffered some pretty big injuries throughout the course of his career. Well, not big injuries, but he's been injured as well. So they played without him. He's even left the team once or twice, and they've played without him and still won without him. Okay, sure, there were some offensive linemen who decided to sit out, which I could say was a big deal. A big deal, because offensive linemen are important. Okay, but the offensive line has had injuries for years, man. That offensive line has been injured for years. When Brady was there, and I keep saying this, man, but they played against a team, I forgot, I think it was the Houston Texans. Houston Texans rushed 3 players versus 5 offensive linemen and was able to generate a pass rush before Brady was even done his drop back. So these positions, it's not like New England hasn't played without them before and still went on to have success. They did. They've had success without Dante Hightower. They've had success without Patrick Chung. They've had success without Rob Gronkowski. They've had success before. So one could make the argument that the reason is Brady. So, let's keep
Which
going.
included Patrick Chung and Dante Hightower. How you gonna do that? That's shade very, very flagrantly being thrown on Bill Belichick. And I think it's unfortunate that he would choose to do that because the facts do not support what he's saying.
The facts are not coming out of your mouth, though. Like, this is a shame, man. Like, this is a shame, because it's like, in order to prop up one person, you have to completely try to destroy or assassinate the character of another person. And it shouldn't be that way, man. And I said this before at the beginning of the video. Listen, I would never say that New England wouldn't have won without Brady, but I also wouldn't say that New England never would have won without Belichick. Because you can't. These things didn't happen. Like, that's revised in history. To say if you take Brady away and put anybody else there, like Aaron Rodgers, that's revised in history. Like, you can't do that. You can't spend your time doing that. Because it's just pointless. Because you can't go back and replicate, or you can't go back and try to simulate a situation like that. It's just not possible. But, for anybody to try to make it seem like Tom Brady's career wasn't as significant and phenomenal as it was is absolutely 100% wrong, man. Like, this dude's career is legendary. And it's legendary for a reason, man. Tom Brady has been doubted. He's been discredited. He's been made fun of. He's been disrespected his entire career. Even in college, when his own college coach, after Brady kept pulling his ass out the fire, his own college coach kept deferring to other people instead of looking at Brady to lead that team. And even still, when Brady given the opportunity, would still save his ass. So how could this just be a Belichick thing if Brady was doing this in college?
I think it was wrong for him to say that.
Well, I think we could take it with a grain of salt. Maybe he's salty at Belichick. But I can't just dismiss what a member of the team who was coached by Belichick and caught passes from Tom Brady has to say, because, guys, let's not lose the forest for the trees, nor take what Amendola said here too literally. Really what's going on? There were two camps. Look, we all know Brady and Belichick were great together, and they both deserve credit. Like, we don't need to repeat that constantly. But there were two camps. And this is the greatest sports debate of the 21st century. This and Jordan or LeBron, right? But this is unique to this century. Was it more Brady or was it more Belichick? People like me, I think most people, for the most part, thought, it's Coaches League. It's more Belichick. And Belichick is a great coach, and he even did a good job this year going 7-9, Stephen A., as you pointed out.
And I hate that notion that the coaches make everything go. Because we've seen great teams have bad coaches or average coaches and not get the job done. LaDainian Tomlinson at some point in his career should have won a Super Bowl. Adrian Peterson at some point in his career should have won a Super Bowl. Look at Peyton Manning in all those years that he couldn't get there. Like, so to say that, to say that this is a coaches league, sometimes we see bad coaches win as well. Sometimes we see bad coaches. Sometimes we see people that shouldn't be coaches win. Sometimes it happens. And what sport is great for that? Basketball. And two situations that come off the top of my head, scratch that. But the point I'm trying to make is, if this is a coaches league, then a player shouldn't matter. So when a coach struggles, when a coach can't get the job done, if this is a coaches league, is it really the talent that's around? The depth of talent. Look at Bill Belichick last year. 7-9 with Cam Newton. 7-9. If Bill Belichick is as great a coach as he is, don't you think that Bill Belichick should have been able to win more games than 7 games? Doesn't matter if they didn't have a good wide receiver. Doesn't matter if their tight ends are non-existent. Doesn't matter if the offensive line was just at a disarray, in a disarray. Doesn't matter if the defense was, good for the most part, but, average, I guess. Those things don't matter. Let's look at Bruce Arians. Bruce Arians the year prior, 7-9, quarterback throws 30 interceptions. Defense plays, well, despite the fact that the quarterback keeps giving the ball away. But that team was incredibly average. Versus a Bruce Arians this year, 11-5. Offense finally got the train moving. Defense was average, to start the season, but started to pick it up later. Goes on to win a Super Bowl. Even though his style of football, his playbook, his style of football, the risk it, no biscuit philosophy, everybody said you can't win a Super Bowl that way. You can't win a Super Bowl that way. You can't win a Super Bowl that way. Bruce Arians won a Super Bowl. How did Bruce Arians win a Super Bowl? Gave up on the no risk it, no biscuit approach. Adopted Brady's play action. We used the run to set up the pass. We used the tight ends. We used the running backs. We stopped going deep 24/7. We start looking for shorter options. We start using the middle of the field. We start using our receivers as objects of distraction where we try to separate defenders, make defenders choose. There are too many weapons on the field. We cannot give the defense easy work by going downfield 24/7. We have to force them to play. We have to force them to play short, deep, defend it all, stop it consistently. The same shit they did in New England. No, but it's not possible. There's no way that this offense can look similar to what New England had going when Brady was there. There's no way, because that is what Bill Belichick does. And this is a coaches league. So that means that what worked in New England stayed in New England. It didn't transfer to Tampa Bay. But if it transferred to Tampa Bay, what the hell does that mean? This is the point I'm trying to make. And then I'm probably going to end it right here because I've been going on for a while. But this is the point I'm trying to make. Brady has been looked down upon. He has been constantly disrespected on multiple occasions about his contributions to the great game of football. But not only does he surpass these low opinions and high expectations, not only does he do this, he does it in style. Tom Brady is the greatest football player we've ever seen. Oh, but he's not an athlete. Okay, Tom Brady doesn't run the fastest. He doesn't jump the highest. He doesn't throw the hardest. He doesn't have the most accurate arm. But you know what he does do? He beats those guys. Point blank. So that's it, man. Look, if you want to try to dole out some credit, everybody deserves credit because everybody had a job to do. Everybody did their job. If everybody didn't do their job, they wouldn't have won as much as they did. So let's try to leave this shit alone, man. This argument is becoming dead. All right.